Hey, what's up, everybody? It's retired Navy SEAL Jason Redman, and I know a lot of you have been waiting for me to put out this video, and it is about the amazing, mind-blowing interview with on the Shawn Ryan Show with my teammate DJ Shipley. And man, I got to tell you, that was an amazing interview. It is probably one of the most transparent interviews that I have ever watched. Shawn, amazing job to you, man, as a teammate and as an interviewer, man. The way you wove through that interview was incredible. And for anyone else out there, I know there's a lot of you who are fans of special operations, you're fans of SEALs, you're fans of, I don't know, the hardcore fighter's mindset, which is a critical one. I know I'm going to be talking a lot more about this in 2022. You need to watch this interview. I know for a lot of people, you take a look at it and you're like, holy smokes, this is 4.5 hours, and you decide I'm not going to get into it. And I will admit, man, it took me about a week and a half to watch the whole thing, but it is so powerful. This is why you need to watch it. You know, for any of you that are thinking about a career as special operations soldier, you know, SEAL, Ranger, MARSOC, Air Force Combat Controller, Pararescue, you know, you want to be a grunt or a Marine, you should watch this. If you are an individual who fancies yourself a man, you know, a rough and tough, you know, hard-charging fighter, you need to watch this. If you are someone who aspires to be better in your life and you're struggling with, you know, the doubts that all of us have, you need to watch this. It is just an amazingly powerful interview that DJ just lets nothing, he hides nothing, man. He talks about everything. And I think this is critically important. In this day and age, when there is an attack on men in general, this idea that, you know, this I don't know, this Neanderthal thinking that warriors are these guys that sit in this dark room, sharpening a knife, praying for war, for the kill. It's just not true. And if that's what you think being a warrior is, then you should probably rethink that. I think what DJ showed in this interview is, you know, warriors, we are men and we are human. And obviously there's some women warriors out there also. As a matter of fact, I'm going to talk about some women warriors at the end. And the reality is there has to be a balance in everything we do in this life. As a leader, as a warrior, as a special operations member, as a military member, as a law enforcement buyer, any of you out there, you should watch this. Because it is that transparency that DJ gives that lends this to one of the most powerful interviews I've ever watched. So I watched DJ grow up, you know, in the teams at least. I saw him when he showed up at SEAL Team 10. You know, and man, he had so much swagger when he showed up. But it was kind of funny because guys would say, yeah, man, DJ thinks he's his old man. And, you know, he hadn't done anything yet. But, you know, it's natural to see why he would grow up that way. I mean, DJ talks about it, man, how his dad, from a very young age, he grew up in the teams. His dad took him to the platoon huts. His dad had him shooting and moving and communicating and doing all the things that SEALs do from a young age. So it was only natural that DJ would grow up and say, this is what I want to do. And to be so young, to go into this job, and it's tough. A lot of the younger guys don't make it through training because they don't understand the reindeer games. But I think DJ's dad really helped him to understand that before he went to Buds. Although the downside of that, DJ showed up at the teams with a pretty big level of arrogance and a pretty big personality. But I watched him grow. I saw him in his first platoon, and then he rolled into our troop for that second platoon that he talks a lot about in that interview. And the difference in the first DJ I met when he was younger and watching him in another platoon and then going into our platoon and watching him grow up on that deployment with a lot of combat was absolutely impressive and amazing to watch. And really to watch the progression of his career after he left us, after he went on to SEAL Team 6, and all the things DJ did throughout his life. Just really impressed. And DJ, if you watch this, man, I have so much respect for you, brother. You know, I called you after watching it. So much respect for you, for everything you've done, the man and warrior you've become. A lot of people wrote to me about, oh my God, I can't believe the intensity of that gunfight. Yeah, it's kind of interesting that I am Probably the only one out there that's talked about the intensity of that firefight, and it was interesting for me to see someone else who was there. Obviously, I've talked to my other teammates that were there in that gunfight, but DJ being the first one to come out, you know, I've been in quite a few gunfights, not as many as DJ, not as many as other guys out there, but that that was definitely the most intense one that I've ever been in. And for DJ to say that also after a career of intense combat, a career serving at the highest level, the tier 1 level, being in a lot of firefights, to say that was the most intense firefight he had ever been in. And really listening to it from his perspective, man, brought back a lot of memories. I mean, everything from, you know, the grenades coming down, the women and children that were on that target, the individual who got shot on the stairwell. I mean, I was standing right there at the base of that stairwell when that occurred, and that is a memory that will forever be seared into my mind. I decided not to talk about that in my book for a number of different reasons. And DJ talked about it, and I just that brought back a lot of hard memories to think about that. And that's the reality of combat. You know, for those of you that are out there that think, yeah, and I can't wait to get into the military. As young men, there's this desire that we want to get into the fight. And every man out there, you should, if you are a man, you should want to test yourself. You should want to know what it is. I talk about in the book, what it is to slap the dragon. And I think that's critical. But as you do it more and more, you realize that there is a cost to slapping the dragon. It may not just be a cost to you and the physical damage that occurs to your body, which you see throughout DJ's career, throughout my career, throughout so many others' career, but it's the emotional toll, it's the mental toll, and obviously it is the collateral damage we see on the battlefield at times, you know, the loss of property, the loss of lives, the loss of innocent people. And that's hard. And anyway, seeing all that in that gunfight and watching DJ talk about it, man, if you want to talk about an intense firefight, DJ did a really good job of talking about how that gunfight unfolded. He goes on to talk about the rest of his career, which is just an amazing ride. DJ is a hard fucking dude, man. So much respect, man. I like to think I am a hard dude, that I can handle a lot of pain, but DJ went through a lot of things. I mean, to be able to make it through Green Team with a broken hip is incredible and a testament to him and his drive. DJ also talked a lot about the need to lock everything down, to just block everything out in this world so that you could achieve that peak performance level. And I agree, there is a path that has to occur to achieve the top levels of where we want to be. Although I will say there still is a balance there. You know, there still is a side, and this is where you have to have an understanding family, an understanding wife, an understanding spouse, whoever is out there watching this, to achieve the top levels, tier 1 in special operations, tier 1 in law enforcement, police, you know, to be a professional athlete. You have to give up. There's a lot of sacrifice and there's a lot of time that goes into it. And, you know, 10,000 repetitions of shooting, 10,000 repetitions of throwing, 10,000 repetitions of fighting. That takes blocking out and sacrificing a lot of things. So, and DJ talked about that and talked about how he blocked out the rest of the world so that he could operate at the highest level that he needed to do. The most powerful part of this interview, guys, and I'm particularly addressing men. So if you're a woman and you watch this, I mean, it can apply to you, but this is more addressed at men. Men, we need to stand up and be better as men. We're losing men in this country. There is a watering down and a weakening of men that is occurring. And there is also a little bit of a fallacy, I think, that's also occurring, is this idea that men, if you're truly a man, you got to be a hard ass. You got to be a dick. You got to never admit your weakness. And I bought into that when I was younger, man. Coming to the SEAL teams, we are a hardcore type A personality, man. We will eat our own. And in some ways, it's necessary, because in some ways, that's where the forging truly happens. It makes you hard. But the best leaders and the best people I ever worked with also were not afraid to talk about their weaknesses. And but it was very rare. Only until I got really close with people after my career and the later part of my career did I get to see that. And when I was younger, I didn't see that, man. I was a dick to a lot of people, because I thought that's what I needed to be. And DJ talks a lot about that. He talks about when you go into combat, sustained high velocity operations, sustained danger. I mean, constantly jumping and diving and shooting and operating with muzzles right next to your head as you're shooting and clearing targets, and doing breaches where you're exposed to the blast over and over again. It takes a toll on you mentally, physically, emotionally, and especially when you get into combat and you start seeing a lot of the things that you'll see. Friends who are wounded. DJ saw me with my face totally blown out. We saw that young man get blown apart on the stairs. DJ took that round in the chest. We had a lot of close calls on that deployment alone, and I can't imagine how many more close calls DJ had throughout his career. All those things take a toll on you, and they were taking a toll on DJ. And he talked about, he was having these doubts and paranoia and anxiety and a lot of things that we carry back from the battlefield. And he reached out to some of his friends and was like, hey man, sitting around having a drink or just chilling, and said, hey man, have you ever felt this? And guys were like, no man, I've never felt that. That's pussy. And man, I really resonated with that conversation, because the reality is, man, everybody has doubts at times. Everybody has moments of weakness. Everybody, when we carry the scars of warfare, man, you carry it with you. And it's not just these physical scars, it is the mental and the emotional scars. It is the baggage you carry. It is constantly being in this fight or flight mode all the time. It starts to take a toll on you. And that really crushed DJ. And you need to watch this interview all the way to the end, where he talks about how much he looked at those guys when they went to Marcus Capone, and Marcus is a teammate also. Marcus, if you watch this, man, much respect for you, brother, for what you were doing to help our guys through this journey to find peace with the career that you guys led, that I led. But when DJ was sitting around down there, and there were guys that started talking about the paranoia and the anxiety and the stress and panic attacks and all these things, and DJ was like, man, I brought these things up to you guys, and you guys fucking lied to me. And that's the reality. That is the myth of being a man. So let me tell you something. All of you that grow up as a man, you need to learn to fight. In this day and age, we need to learn to fight. I'm going to be talking a lot about this in 2022. That we're living in a crazy time, and there is a destruction of accountability and respect for other people. There's an attack on law enforcement. So all across the board, we're having more and more crime and issues. And guess what, man? You need to step up. You need to be a protector. And in being a protector, it is a mindset of being tough. It is a mindset of getting out there and fighting. It is a mindset of being willing to step up and fighting for people you believe in. And part of it is physically fighting. The other part of it is, fighting for your beliefs, fighting for your convictions. And I'm really going to make this a focus of 2022 for me. But there's also this idea that if you're this strong man and you're this fighter, you're a dick and you're an asshole and you're cold and you never talk about, issues or problems. And that's just not true, man. Some of the best leaders I saw that I got to work with, they were balanced. They were balanced in all aspects of their lives. So they were great fighters, but they also knew how to be soft when they needed to be. And here's the thing. They also had doubts and fears. But I didn't know this when I was younger, man. Why that resonated with me, with what DJ said, is I remember when I went to a really respected leader, a mentor of mine, because I was having some doubts as a young leader. It's during that time in my book where I wrote about I was off course. I was fucking up. I was getting myself in trouble. I was drowning my sorrows with alcohol. And I went to a really respected leader and mentor of mine and said, hey, man, I'm really struggling. I mean, really having doubts. I mean, I'm just, I'm kind of stepping on my toes. I'm messing up. And I was like, do you ever have doubts? Do you ever doubt yourself? Do you ever? And he was like, no, never. He's like, get that shit out of your head. And I remember walking away thinking to myself, man, what's wrong with me? Like, I'm a piece of shit. And that's bullshit. The reality is, all of us have that. I don't care if you're Tom Brady. I don't care if you're Michael Jordan. I don't care if you're Jocko Willink or David Goggins. Every one of us at some point has had a doubt. And the difference between the guys at the top and you is they didn't let their doubts and fears ever to become an excuse. They were there. And you could vocalize them. There's a time and place. Obviously, in the moment, when you're a leader, sometimes you got to be very careful when you vocalize those doubts and fears. But if it's an opportunity to grow people, You got to look for those opportunities. Once again, you never allow it to be an excuse not to execute. That's where I want to give it to DJ, how he just continued to execute despite all the demons that were living inside of his head. So, guys, that you have to watch this interview. It's just so powerful. And then the last thing I want to talk about is the spiral down, man. DJ was in a lot of pain and started making poor choices. And this is a common thing with a lot of people. I saw a great mentor, the mentor of mine that actually told me that he never had doubts and fears, later spiraled out of control in his life, and he ended up taking his life. And this is a common theme. We're seeing way too much of this in the warrior community, in the special operations community. On average, 22 veterans a day are taking their lives. And it is this belief that they can't reach out, that they're isolated, that they can't reach out to a friend because they won't understand, or it's weak to admit, that they're having an issue. And that's bullshit, man. Man, we relied on a team when we were overseas. I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for DJ and that Air Force AC-130 gunship and the other guys that were there, my team leader, and, I wouldn't be here. I wouldn't be here. It was a team that enabled me to get out of there and survive. So why do you think, if you're struggling on the X with doubts and fears and loneliness, anxiety from all the damage and the destruction that you brought home from combat, why do you think you have to do it alone? Reach out, man, to your teammates. And there's so many great programs that are out there that are helping guys like what Marcus Capone is doing. So Marcus, once again, man, awesome. DJ spiraled down to where he was ready to take his own life. And obviously he also spiraled down to where he was having affairs and doing stupid shit. And it happens, man. We mess up. People mess up. People make mistakes. And this is where I want to talk about the special operations wives, because, man, I've witnessed so many that are rocks, man. They are bigger warriors than so many of the warriors I've ever seen. And I just want to give a shout out to Patsy Dietz. For those that don't know, Patsy was the widow of Danny Dietz, who was killed in Operation Red Wings. And met DJ probably a year or two later after that, and they ended up, getting married. They have a beautiful family. I think a lot of wives, if that had happened with their husbands, would have just dropped them and said, hey, fuck you, we're done. And I know it was hard for Patsy, but not only did she work to save their marriage, she went in the hardest time to save DJ. So Patsy, I told you this, I called you and just told you how amazed I was. Much respect for you. Both of you guys gave a view into the special operations community that is unlike anything I think so many have seen, and it is the reality. And I hope for those of you that are out there, you will watch this, because it will show you the cost, the toll of a special operations career. But I hope what it will also show you is that having balance and transparency as a warrior will make you a better warrior. It will make you a better fighter. It will make you a better leader. It'll make you a better husband, friend, all across the board. So guys, there you go, man. The Shawn Ryan episode with DJ Shipley, you need to go watch it. You need to go watch it, man. Invest the time, take an hour a day, but it is well worth it. It is life-changing, especially if you are in a law enforcement career, fire career, military career, or you aspire to be a special operations warrior. All right, guys. Anyways, those are my thoughts. Get off that X, man. You're not alone, man. You're not alone. We need to get out there. You need to fight. You need to fight to get off that X. You need to fight to have an overcome mindset. We need to fight for freedom and patriotism in our own country. All of these things, we need to come together. And I don't mean just physically fighting. I just mean, although that is a part of it if it has to come, but it is more just fighting for your beliefs and fighting for your convictions. All right, guys, I'm out. When you are struggling, get off the X and overcome.